Alrighty. Hello, everybody. Just looking at my screen, making sure we are we are all good. Hi, and welcome to Friday. We've made it through another potentially crazy week. We're here. It's Friday. I got some really good responses on the work that we've been doing this week, and I'm super excited about it. I love that my work is out there helping folks. You know, a lot of people look at me really side-eyed. They're like, "You're a life coach and you work in food?" But I'm going to tell you a story about why mental flexibility and understanding where you are and feeling what you're feeling right now is important, because today's topic is, where do you want to be? Because here's the truth, that to get done what you want to get done now, what you have to do is you have to be the person who you're gonna be when you already have whatever it is that you're trying to get done. All right. So if you are trying to be a dad who doesn't yell at his kids, okay, and you think, you know what, that I'm going to take all the tools that Michelle's teaching over her noontime lives, and I'm going to apply all those thought models to not yelling at my kids. Here's how this actually works. All right. So we're going to be doing drawing today. All right. So you have this idea about what you want. Okay. What you want is, I want to be a dad who, it's probably not just, not just not yelling at your kids. There's more to being a good parent than not yelling at your kids. So this is what I want in parenthood. I want to be a present and sufficient parent, okay? Going for heroics. I'm really not. I'm going for present and sufficient. Okay. And so when I'm a present and sufficient parent, I have actions that I can think of. What does a present and sufficient parent do? Well, in my head, in the books that I've read, is I listen a lot, right? I create a lot of space for my kids, for the people that they are, right? Create a ton of space for them. All right. I allow them to, so I create space and allow them to be the people that they are. I work with my husband on being a present and sufficient parent, right? And when I turn and face the truth of my feelings about that, I feel both freedom and I feel fear. I feel both freedom and fear that maybe I won't live up to this. And maybe I won't. Maybe I won't. There are plenty of parents out there in the history of the universe that were neither present nor sufficient, right? And so, but my evidence is that, like, I don't know if I've talked it on these lives, but there's a book out there by Simon Sinek that I highly recommend, and it's called The Infinite Game. Okay, if you have not read the book, read the book, because I guarantee you Pandemic Response is an infinite game. We are not going to have an end to pandemic response. Coronavirus wasn't the beginning of our pandemic response, and this coronavirus 19, not the end of our pandemic response. And so what I build evidence from is that this is an infinite game. And I'm going to be working on this. Fine. Yeah, pretend that says infinite. I'm going to be working on this my whole life. Okay? If I'm out there thinking I get to work on this In freedom and sometimes in fear, I am going to be a present and sufficient parent. All right? If I understand that if I yell at my kids today, we can wake up tomorrow and we can try again. Ask me how I know this, right? If I am willing to allow that thought in, that today is a different day, that we can create a new reality. Maybe it's better, maybe it's worse, whatever it is, but it's an infinite game where we keep ourselves in the arena, as it were, and we keep ourselves going forward to live into our possibility, right? When you adopt that possibility, you create yourself over here, all right? And over here, I feel present and sufficient. It's also feelings. Present and sufficient. And what I can do, all right, is, so this is like 12 months from now. All right, so I think in my head, 12 months from now, everybody's going to be turning almost 13, almost 12, and almost 10. Okay. And so all three kids will be in double digits. I'll be getting a teenager. We'll be navigating, 7th grade, 6th grade, and 4th grade. And and that's, just thinking about who my kids are at that point and who I am at that point. And I want to be able to say, in 12 months, I'm going to be a present and sufficient parent, okay? And in my head, a present and sufficient parent is somebody who knows how to pause in my models, pause when I'm ready to tear my kid's head off or whatever. Yesterday it was over not vacuuming. Like, I kind of yelled at my 8-year-old, my almost 9-year-old, about not vacuuming. Wasn't my proudest parenting moment, right? And I'm sure we all think of things that we do like that, okay, where we say, oh, that wasn't really what I wanted to do, okay, so I am here right now, so this is me now, right, where I'm not thinking as intentionally as I want, right, and I'm like yelling more than I want. And you may be a parent that's experiencing the same thing. You may be a kid that's experiencing the same thing. I know lots of different people are listening to this. You may be yelling at work in ways that you don't want to, like, we're human beings and we yell. So here's a question. If you want to become this person, what do you have to feel in order to become a present and sufficient parent? Like, how does that feel to you? Or if you're an employee, or you're a CEO, or you're, whoever, how does that feel? Okay? When I think present and sufficient, I feel really good. I feel like I'm enough. And that feels amazing. Somebody who feels like they're enough and who practices feeling like enough can pause in the yelling, okay? And here's how I actually diagram that out for folks using a Strive model, all right? So if we decide present and sufficient is like what we want to be, right? So we want to be present and sufficient. This is how I do thought work during the day, right? So we're going to do a Strive model. The S in Strive stands for safe. Am I feeling physically safe to be present and sufficient to my kids? The answer is yes, okay, for me, because I am truly lucky, and I worked very hard to marry a man where we have physical safety in the house. And I know that's not true of everybody, Okay, there are reports that during coronavirus, domestic violence issues are going up, right? And we have to figure out how to deal with that. There are people for whom this answer is no, right? There are people who are watching this for whom this answer is no. Domestic violence hotlines. Reach out to me. I've got a ton of resources and I can help you with this. Wherever you are in the country, I will help you figure this out. If this answer is no, get in touch with me. Okay? I'm dead serious. Am I feeling financially safe to be present and sufficient to my kids? This can be very hard for people, especially if we're working at home, right? We don't feel financially safe right now. And all we have to do is let ourselves know that we don't feel financially safe, okay? I'm going to be talking about all these different kinds of safety next week, okay? So next week is going to be, as we go forward with coronavirus, I'm going to be talking about financial safety, emotional safety, all in different ways, all next week. Okay. So then the next one is emotionally safe. Do I feel emotionally safe to be present and sufficient to my kids? Okay. This can be really hard as a parent, right? Because our kids can say things to us that really cut, that really say, ooh, that is really what I think about myself. All right, do you have enough mental space to say that thought may or may not be true? And not a whole lot of us do, okay? Are you trained to be present and sufficient to your to your kids? Right? I mean, have you read all the books, about, one of the best parenting books out there is Grit by Angela Duckworth, and it's not even about parenting, right? If other parenting books, Nurture Shock, probably one of the best parenting books out there, okay? Are you trained to know what present and sufficient for a growing kid looks like? Right? You may not be. We work a lot on this. Like my coach had a call with one of, so she does group calls too. And she had somebody come on and get coached. And this woman got some news from her daughter and tried to coach her daughter through the news when her daughter didn't want coaching. And I'm guilty of that, I have to tell you. That's not being present to your kid. Coaching somebody who doesn't want coaching is not being present to that person. So are you trained to be present and sufficient to your kids? Are you trained to model sufficiency to children? The R in Strive stands for respect. Do you respect yourself to be present and sufficient for your children? My guess is the answer is yes. For most of us, I think probably the answer is yes. Have you invested the time, talent, and treasure being present and sufficient with your kid? Have you invested the time to be present and sufficient to your kid? Isn't that an interesting question? Right? I'm a work-at-home mom. I work a lot. Okay, even before coronavirus, I work a ton. I always have. Veterinarians work a lot. We're used to working a lot. And one of the things that I'm doing in my business is creating the systems so I don't have to work literally as many hours. I work way more efficiently than I did last year. Time my life way better, way more present to my kids. Have I invested the time, talent, and treasure in being present and sufficient to the kids? And for me, I'm going to say yes, okay, because I worked really, really hard this past year to do that. Do I value, the V stands for value, being present and sufficient to my kids? I sure do. All right, and am I empowered to stand in fear, discomfort, and failure? Okay, and this is what I want to point out about this. This person here has failed forward. Okay? The parent I am in 12 months has learned so much because I'm willing to fail at being present and sufficient to my kids. I am willing to fail at selling my locker. I am willing to fail at selling the medical locker. I am willing to show up to our communities so hard, I will withstand any negative emotion. Okay? Any negative emotion so that I can help communities be sufficient. All right? And right before I got on this call or this live, I was on the phone with one of my peer coaches. We went through coach training together, and I love her. And she's a relationship coach, and so if you need relationship coaching, shoot me a DM, and I will put you in touch with Dawn because she's amazing. And I was driving home from the bank because I had to do some banking around the locker, and I was like, Dawn, I'm freaking out. I need your help with this. And what I needed help with is I got a request yesterday and then had some other follow-on conversations with my fabricators and that sort of thing about using the locker as morgue space. Okay, so space to hold the bodies of our beloved dead. And my first thought was, be careful what you get good at. Because you might get really, really good at cooling bodies down and keeping them clean and sanitary. And when I invented my locker, it was about getting the possibility of having locally sourced meats in local communities. And I was talking with Dawn, and she's like, think of the possibility of what you are creating for communities so that they can care for their dead, even in the space of hospitals being overwhelmed and everything that we are doing. We are a society that cares very deeply, that has very deep mores and ways of thinking about our dead. And when I was inventing the locker and getting it patented and doing all of that work in 2016, I had no idea that I would be failing forward to this point right now and learning all of the things that I needed to learn and having all of those phone calls and understanding how to do cleanable, inspectable, coolable space so that I can answer the call right now. So what I don't know is that what am I doing in trying to create presence and sufficiency with my kids that allows me to be present and sufficient with myself right now to answer the call of communities for an entire continuum of care based on something I invented in 2016. And I gotta tell you, it's not all positive emotion. I'm not tap dancing in the street about making a profit on this. I will make a profit. I promise I will make a profit because I owe that to my family. All right? All that time I didn't spend with them, I didn't do it for free. All right? But allowing myself to be present with all of my emotions, knowing that I need to be coached, and that I want to get coaching because when I am endeavoring to be present and sufficient, in this case to my business and to my community, versus being present and sufficient as a parent, and if I allow myself to fail forward, I am empowered to stand in fear and discomfort and failure in order to create the world I want to live in order to create the family that I want to live in. And I will always be able to stand here and say, I am going to do this. Man, I really screwed that up. What the question we ask around here all the time is what emotion are you running away from, right? And when Dawn asked me a theme and variation on that question, the emotion that I'm running away from is fear that I'm going to look bad, and I may look bad. And the question is do I care? Do I care if I look bad to other people when I am out here saying, wow, I have a solution for communities so that we can culturally appropriately, budgetarily appropriately take care of people when they're alive, take care of people while we're feeding people, and take care of people when they die, right? And if I think a lot about it, it's pretty amazing that my whole life has led me so that I could be a life coach in this time, because my very best client is myself. My very best client is myself. Your very best person to life coach as you learn the tools that I'm bringing you is yourself, right? And so if I'm looking at present and sufficient in being a parent, right, and I look around and I do a light model, GHT, and I look around and I say, I am willing to fail forward. You know what else I'm willing to do? I'm willing to talk about it. I'm willing to be vulnerable. I look at myself and I see vulnerability. Right? Because that's who I am. I go and, I mean, my friends who've known me for a very long time will know that I'm generally pretty vulnerable with them. Okay? That's who I am. And that's what my integrity tells me, is that this is who I am. I am someone who is always working, always creating presence and sufficiency. Do I do it 100% every single day? Of course not. I'm human too. I still deal with doubt and with fear and with overwhelm and with anxiety. The anxiety disorder has not gone away this week, my friends. Right? Locker sales or otherwise, right? But I look inside and I say, this is who I am. And the question is then, the G stands for gentle. Does this feel gentle? Yeah, it really kind of does. Is this helpful? Yes. Does it create trust and credibility with myself? Do I have my own back? When I think I want to be a present and sufficient parent, does that build trust and credibility? Yeah, it builds trust and credibility with me, and it builds trust and credibility within my family. Okay? And so by going through all of this and testing all of this, what I do next is I practice the thought, right? And so what that looks like is I say, okay, this is something that I want, and then I just turn it into I am present and sufficient. And I take it from this 12-month person and I apply it to the person I am now. So if the person that I am now is somebody who yells at her kids, I get to talk to the person who is 12 months from me now. Okay? And in my mind, I can say, hey, if you're present and sufficient, what do you do about the yelling? What's your answer? Because the answer, I know you have the answers in you because I'm 12 months ahead of you. And you are present and sufficient 12 months from now. And it's amazing. And it feels really, really good. And I can figure out how to fail if I've already yelled at my kids by, okay, what does present and sufficient do? Goes and apologizes, says, hey, Molly, this is where this my head was, and I took it out on you, and I yelled at you, and I'm really sorry. Right? And then what Molly does, and I know it, and I'm sorry. And then we apologize and we hug and we get the work done. Right? And that's a lot better. So it's a lot easier way to live in the family. And so this exercise about who do you want to be 12 months from now, okay, can be very, very powerful. And if you can't, and I've got a hack for this, okay, if you cannot figure out who you want to be 12 months from now, I want you to go and find somebody who you think is ahead of you, okay? Somebody who is, we do this in like the business world all the time. You wouldn't go and get mentored by somebody who who hasn't developed their business as much as you have, who hasn't made as much money as you had necessarily, and who isn't like where you are. You want to get mentored by somebody who's further ahead, right? So there are a ton of people out there, okay, who you could model your behavior around, and here's how you do it, okay? Because if you can't think about who you want to be 12 months from now, all right, I want you to go find somebody and list all the amazing attributes about them, okay? Everything that you love about that person, okay? When I started this, I started with Oprah, okay? Because, like, I want to be Oprah when I grow up. And I started with Oprah, and I wrote down all of the things that I admired about Oprah. I admire her vulnerability. I admire how she has come up. I admire her tenacity and her ability to fail forward. And I want you to just get a sheet of paper and write all of that down. Just write it down, all of it, okay? And if you're watching this on record, I want you to hit pause right now. All right? And then I'm going to tell you what to do. For those of you who are watching at home, I want you to just like write down one person in one sentence. Maybe it's Oprah. Maybe it's Susie Orman. Maybe it's me, right? Maybe it's we have some local senators that are doing some really amazing things, okay? Write down one sentence about what you admire, okay? So, for me, the sentence would be, I think Oprah is, like amazing and big-hearted. And then what you do is, you write, I am amazing and big-hearted. Because you cannot recognize an attribute in someone else unless you also recognize that attribute within yourself, okay? This comes out of positive psychology. This is tested. There are papers on this. You can't see anything in somebody else that you don't also see in yourself. All of those positive attributes that you see in somebody else, that you see in me, all the possibility, wow, maybe I could lose 85 pounds too, like Michelle did. You know what? Write that sentence down. I am somebody who can lose the weight. I am somebody who can stop the drinking. I am somebody who can parent in presence and sufficiency. Right? And practice saying that to yourself. It just takes practice. These are learned and learnable skills. Right? And if you do that, I guarantee you, in 12 months, you will be somebody who lives those attributes every single day, and your life will be radically transformed. All right, that's what we got for your Friday. I'm going to be here over the weekend. My plans for the weekend involve popcorn and movies and snuggling my children. CBS All Access said Picard is free, and guess what I'm doing this weekend? So I love you all. You're completely amazing. I will see you tomorrow. Stay safe out there. Bye, guys.